Hey PSL, it's your Mayor Greg Orbeck, and I'm here in the city's Emergency Operations Center with a very special guest, Christina Prue. She's our Emergency Operations Administrator, and she's not always going to be available as we go through this storm because she is the city manager's right hand and working so hard to get our team together and can keep us on track, to keep us as safe as possible as we face Hurricane Dorian. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And we're here to share some really important information with you this afternoon as the situation continues to evolve. And we're also going to take questions live. Christina, do you want to deliver a message to the people of Port St. Lucie?
Absolutely. Thank you. We are urging residents to stay vigilant to make sure that they are still being as prepared as possible. I know that a lot of residents are hopeful that it will continue to, Hurricane Dorian will continue to move off the coast and really just hit us a little bit to more tropical storm force winds, but please remember that it's so important to still prepare your homes, your families, your pets, and help your neighbors out as well. Let's prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Christina was just leading a meeting that broke about 30 minutes ago that started at 10:45, our briefing that was centered around the 11 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center. And one of the things that I wanted to share with the people along the same lines is that we're here and across our 120 square miles, we're working as hard as we can for the worst case scenario of a direct hit, which unfortunately on that call with the best scientists at the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service cannot be ruled out yet. So I know a lot of people have been watching these official forecasts ping pong back and forth, and I know my family has been kind of getting into this rhythm and living on when's the next report, when's that forecast going to be updated. Has the same thing been happening with you and around here? Are you keeping your eyes tuned on that?
Absolutely. It's so important that we are checking. The storm seems to really be throwing a curveball our way. It's slowing down, it's stalling, it's strengthening. We think that it's curving and moving in a different direction some of the time. So here in the city of Port St. Lucie, we just want to let you know that we have been partially activated here in our EOC, which is our Emergency Operations Center. As Mayor Orbeck mentioned, we have been working diligently out in the field to make sure that everything is prepared out there. Additional resources are being ordered through the county and through the state for post-storm response and recovery. And we're just going to continue that track in every way. Port St. Lucie is still preparing for the worst.
So just as a couple of days ago, the model's trended away from us, now it's nudging it back in our direction. And my message to you, Port St. Lucie, is given how much the track has changed to date for what is now the most powerful storm to ever be in this part of the Atlantic, which just made landfall in the Bahamas with 180 miles per hour sustained winds, 220-mile gusts. I hope you can appreciate why it's so essential for all of us to complete our preparations now and to be as ready as possible for that worst case scenario. Let's not be surprised if Mother Nature decides it doesn't follow the imaginary line on a map drawn by man. And we really want to keep you updated and having the best information. So obviously our head of the effort doesn't always have time to do Facebook Live, and sometimes we're going to be busy. But we do an official advisory and update, and we're on number 6, and it's available at cityofpsl.com/Dorian. So that's the way that we're officially putting out the information. And additionally, we have the hotline number of 772-873-6382. Again, that number is 772-873-6382. And that hotline, you can ask whatever question is on your mind. And if you see something that's dangerous when we're still trying to scurry around the city and do everything we can, please let us know. I know that our neighborhood services department and our entire team is working so hard, and I know that with you quarterbacking, they've gone out there and picked up debris piles and all kinds of things even today. And we have a question coming in?
No, we were having a little bit of static and some people couldn't hear what you just said.
Oh no.
Would you mind repeating?
The hotline?
Yeah, but yeah.
All right, so let me make sure I enunciate. Our hotline, and you can ask any questions at the hotline. We're going to be here operating the phones for as long as it takes. 772-873-6382. Again, 873-6382. We also have a recorded news line. If you're more comfortable hearing your news than going online, please call 873-6397. Again, 873-6397. Again, where our official notice is, cityofpsl.com/Dorian. Cityofpsl.com/Dorian. It's very straightforward, PSL. Christina, do you want to close or lead our efforts in taking any questions?
Sure, absolutely. So if there's any questions now.
We don't have any yet, but if any, you could ask if anyone wants.
Sure, sure. If any of the residents listening on Facebook Live right now have any questions, either for myself or for Mayor Orvac, now's the time. And again, the live line that he mentioned for our call center, that will be activated every time that our emergency operations center is activated. At our partial activation right now, we will be live with the call center until 6 p.m. tonight, opening again tomorrow morning at 8.
Maybe you want to go over, we just did an evacuation order. You want to go over that again?
Sure. Mr. City Manager, are you able to speak to that?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, so there's the one right there.
So yes, the City of Port St. Lucie is mirroring St. Lucie County's evacuation order. Certainly, St. Lucie County is evacuating and urging the residents strongly leave the coastal areas. We in Port St. Lucie don't have an actual ocean front, but we do have low-lying areas. We have modular homes. We're recommending if you live in a floodplain in an area that has flooded before, because we expect to have high levels of rain, and we certainly will have some storm surge, that you strongly consider evacuating those areas. The shelters for St. Lucie County are open. They open at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Will be open until the storm has passed, certainly. And so if you live in a modular home, you live in a low-lying area that is subject to flooding, we call it a mandatory evacuation. You know, certainly if you choose to stay, you can, but it's at your own risk. And so we would encourage you, if you live in those areas, to leave. Otherwise, we'll be providing very regular updates to our community throughout, both on Facebook and through our website. And you should know that your city is well prepared. But we're preparing for something that is really not known. So one of the things we've seen is every 4 hours the track shifts a little bit, the intensity shifts a little bit. But one thing's consistent, it's that we're still getting at a minimum tropical storm force winds.
I think what's important to note too is that our grounds are already saturated from all the rain that we've had to date. If, as the city manager said, if you feel that you're in an area that has flooded in the past, please take the time now to gather your families and your belongings and your pets and find a safe place, whether it's a family member's home, a friend's home, or one of the shelters that the St. Lucie County Division of Emergency Management has opened up.
So we have another question?
And let me hit that question, and then I also received a question on Facebook about shelters. So St. Lucie County operates shelters for our community countywide, and they have opened as of 2 o'clock a special needs shelter, 3 general population shelters, Treasure Coast High School being the one general population shelter within the city of Port St. Lucie. And then Mr. Blackburn just covered the issue of the evacuation order for mobile manufactured homes. And I just received a question regarding potential flooding and should they leave their home. And again, this is where I advise you, just like you're my family. So my family and I, we live over in Sandpiper on the east side of town, close to the river and close to US 1. And because of potential impacts of this storm, my family will be sheltering with my mother-in-law over off of Savona, much further west. And we got those shutters up first. That's the way we did it, so that no matter when it came, we knew that they would be safe as possible at that location. So that's what I'm doing as a Port St. Lucie resident, as your mayor, and I would encourage you to make the same kind of decisions. Evaluate your safety first, and then also, do you have an opportunity to go to a mother-in-law's or a friend's rather than being in a general population shelter, because you may find that you're much more comfortable at your friend's house. What was the next question?
Okay, so next question is, what about curfew?
We have a question about curfew.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, at this point, we do not have a declared curfew. We're playing that by ear. Typically, that you'll see curfews right before a storm should hit or afterwards. So there's not a declared curfew, but you should be listening to our city's website, listening for notices that may occur.
Okay, so we have one that's probably for Christina. Is there a radio station to follow if we have no power?
Sure, absolutely. So WQCS has a live link here to us in the city of Port St. Lucie. We'll make sure to put that up on the city's website as well. And then that way you can still access what we are doing here in the EOC. In addition to that...
88.9?
Oh, thank you.
88.9.
So WQCS is 88.9.
She may be before, or after radios, So, yeah, I
we
still
use it here in the
I still
EOC.
tune in real life, not on the internet.
And that is one thing that we do here. We have backups upon backups. So here, just within the city's emergency operations center, we have several different types of radios. We have satellite phones. We do use WQCS, which now I know is 88.9. And in addition to that, we have different ways to communicate with the county and our residents as well. So we're going to continue to test those systems, make sure that they are up and running nonstop, and just remembering that this storm is somewhere between 18 to 24 hours of effects that we're going to see. So it's so important that we remember that we're going to be hunkered down for that amount of time. We're going to have wind and rain potentially for that amount of time. It's just a very slow moving storm at this time.
Okay, we got another one that the mayor may be able to chime in on. What is the potential for flooding beyond US 1?
We just sat in on a call, and the products that are made available by the National Weather Service and others do not specifically model the St. Lucie River, unfortunately. So we are looking, I believe, at this time of year with the king tides of being like in a +3 situation anyway. So when I say +3, +4, that means over, the kind of the mean high. So we're already in a plus condition. It's going to amount to timing and then angle of approach, duration, track. But again, make those, I'm looking at Sarah as answer that question. I should be looking at you. Those are the kind of the questions you have to answer now for your family, understanding what elevation your house is at, and then the potential impact of a direct hit. I mean, obviously a direct hit of 180 miles an hour is catastrophic, and I believe they're advising 15-foot plus for the Bahamas, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a big difference between the current forecast and a direct hit, but you should keep that in mind. And I just got to keep stressing it, because I'd much rather you be upset with us after the storm is over, that we put you through the rigmarole of preparation and it didn't hit. That to me is the ideal scenario right now. You being mad afterwards that you went through a lot of work to get ready and it didn't come, because we don't want it. We do not want a Cat 5 most powerful storm ever in this section of the basin. We don't want that. We can't have it, but it could happen, and that's the important thing to keep in mind, because on the official forecast track, 50 miles away from PSL's shoreline, 50 miles, and that's the eye. That is the center of the eye, 50 miles. That's not the edge of effects. That's the center of the eye. So keep that in mind and understand what just a little jog to the left means for us, and please be ready.
Okay, so we have one from a new resident in PSL. He says, we are new in PSL and we want to find out if Tiffany Avenue near the hospital floods and Aroso and Prima Vista also. I guess they're trying to figure out if the areas around hospitals.
So these are important questions, great questions. I welcome Mr. Blackburn or Ms. Prue to jump in any time here. So what we're going to find is, depending on the rain event, there's different types of flooding. There's coastal flooding and there's freshwater flooding, right? And so the freshwater flooding in Florida, if you're new to Florida and you're not used to it, if you get 6 inches of rain in one band in an hour concentration, you're going to have localized street flooding. That's going to happen. I can tell you that in my 19 years roughly of living in the city of Port St. Lucie at this time, going through very wet storms, not a windstorm like this, but very wet storms, and some lesser windstorms, Francis, Jean, Wilma, Faye. We had 13 inches of rain in less than a day on the east side of town, and we had street flooding. We had very, very little structural flooding. The only place that we've had structural flooding is actually an unincorporated pocket over there by Billy Bones, Bait and Tackle, US 1, and PSL Boulevard, where Moe's Bagels is. That plaza flooded. But even though the streets were flooded, the homes were safe. We had some minor garage flooding from people actually driving down the streets in monster trucks pulling wakeboarders, believe it or not. So that's my experience. Do you guys have a different experience?
Mayor Orbach mentioned inland flooding. So as many of you already know, our roadways are a secondary drainage system. So it's so important to remember that following the storm, we should not be out in the streets for numerous reasons, one of them being flooding. But in addition to that, there can be down power lines, there can be obstructions on the roadway, so many dangerous conditions. So when we talk about flooding, it is important to remember that it takes time for that water to go down, and that we want to stay in our homes if you choose to stay in your home during the storm until it's safe to go out.
Everything?
Yeah, so one of the things about any kind of hurricane event or tropical storm event is you just don't know the answer. What we're seeing is the prognosis or the prediction right now for rainfall is fairly low in our area, 2 to 4 inches. That could change tomorrow with the track shifting a little bit and be a heavier amount. You just need to, as a citizen, you want to pay attention and be aware. So our major roadways like US 1 are typically going to be your drier roadways. Those are evacuation routes. Neighborhood streets often are designed to allow a little bit of the rainwater to actually go to those streets and then drain off quickly. And so if you're new to our area, certainly those major roads that you mentioned, whether it's Rosso, Prima Vista, US 1 on the east side of the city, those are going to be a little bit higher roadways, but you just have to monitor, when does the rain occur, how much occurred. So as the mayor said, it's not unusual, and we have in past storms, we've gotten 12 inches of rain in a 2-hour period. So if that happens, anything can flood. But the projection right now is 2 to 4 inches, so this is not projected to be where the current track of the storm is, to be a very heavy rainfall event. But monitor it; it can change.
All right, so Mr. Blackburn, I have one more that I know you can address. Someone just asked, are we lowering our lake and I guess our storm drain levels or storm retention pond levels any further?
Yeah, we're currently have reduced almost all of our retention facilities by at least 2 feet. In addition to the city doing that, we've been coordinating with the St. Lucie West Improvement District and with Traditions Improvement District and CDD Community Development District. They have also lowered their water levels, so there's a lot of capacity within all of our drainage facilities, and that's a positive thing. So if we do have extensive rains, we have a good bit of capacity in the facilities.
I think we've caught all the questions so far.
And just Mr. Blackburn was talking about staying tuned and aware, and I get the question of what kind of great information do you have at the EOC? And honestly, we do have access to the best meteorologists and scientists at National Hurricane Center and National Weather Service, but honest to goodness, and we're so thankful for their work, but honest to goodness, it's a very customized and more localized product, but it's based on the same information that you yourself can get right now at National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service web pages. And those addresses are both up on my Facebook page, and you can Google them very easily. And you get the same satellite photos. So my advice to you, again, same advice I give to my family, pick your favorite news station, watch your favorite meteorologist, and at the same time, keep an eye on the National Hurricane Center, and know that at this point we're getting 6-hour official advisories, but we're also getting intermediate advisories that happen at the 3-hour mark. All right, so stay tuned to that. If you really want to get into it, look at the National Weather Service site, but look at your meteorologist and keep glued to the National Hurricane Center. But all the while, make sure you're preparing for the worst case, because if it were to go a more direct route, if it doesn't slow down, not only will we have a direct hit, the direct hit will happen faster. So again, we want you fully prepared and upset with us that you went through all this effort and it wasn't that bad. It was like a thunderstorm on a summer day. That to us is the ideal situation right now. But please complete your preparations and get ready for the worst.
All right, I think that concludes all the questions.
All right.
But if you wouldn't mind just letting everyone know, this will be posted on, this whole advisory will be posted on Facebook and our Dorian page, YouTube.
So we will have this Facebook Live recorded, so it won't be live, but it'll be available to you And then we're going to shoot to be back here after the 5 o'clock update. So they're trying to push it to 6 o'clock, and that's fine because we'll have time for the 5 o'clock update in our briefing. So we'll look for you, PSL, at 6 o'clock this evening. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.